Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today I'm Bava Metzia Daf Nun Gimel. We're going to review again from Nun Beis Mud Beis by the two dots. V'nastal Meiser Sheni ve'enu chayshish Shenu Ela Nefesh Ra. So we were learning that when it comes to coins in which, because they are constantly handled, so some of the precious metals get eroded, and there was a machlokas, a three-way machlokas as to how much erosion takes place that these coins can be used. And in yesterday's summary, we said that if a coin is worth more than what's called kedeo na, which is what we were discussing, then it may be used at face value, at full value. If it's less than kedeo na, but more than half its original value, then we cited a machlokas in yesterday's daf. If it's half its value, then it can be kept and used at the actual value. If it's worth less than half, then we say that the coin must be destroyed l'kol alma. Now, the Mishnah said that if you would use this inferior coin for Meiser Sheni, because Meiser Sheni, which if the fruits are too heavy, you could redeem them onto money, and then that money would be brought to Yerushalayim. What if you use these types of coins? So he said it's not a problem. Shenu el nefesh ra, which we may have translated a bit differently yesterday, but it basically means that only few people who have a nefesh ra won't accept these coins. But since most people do, therefore you can actually use them. So this is certainly a leniency. And therefore, the Gemara says over here, someone who is particular and says that he wants the exact coin and it can't have anything removed off of it, that person's called a nefesh ra. So the only time it's considered to be an issue is if it would be enough. In other words, if the coin really would be accepted, but this particular individual is very makbid. This can be used to support chizkiya. It says that when you exchange coins, you can exchange with its exact value. However, when you redeem it, you have to use the higher level. So the shulchani would give you for its worth in copper coins, but then when you go from peros to those coins, we can pretend that these are actually good coins. So when you come to get copper coins, because the shulchani is going to give you these copper coins, parta b'shavya. So when he does that, so when you take those copper coins and you go from peros to these coins, we can again consider them as though they are at face value. So when it comes to if you have Meiser Sheni, which is not even worth a pruta, so you can say that the extra fifth is Mechul al Meiser Rishonos. So what does it mean, Shieshul Adam Samsim Maisav? A person generally overpays and redeems Meiser Sheni with a coin that is worth more than the fruit. So therefore, because of that, you could still use this coin because there's still something left in it, which is certainly equivalent to Pachas Meshever Pruta. And therefore, the question is, it should go on the original money. This leftover money can go onto that too. So my biyafa bataris yafa the trei zilzulei mazalzalin bay. We don't want to do two zilzuls. So as Rashi said, the chan zilusa shminan de mischal el sela chasera, that we are a little bit strict when it comes to Meiser Sheni. That is true that you could use this inferior coin for Meiser Sheni. That's one zilzul. We don't say harihu ka'at simoin, which is a lenient, say because you cannot use a simoin, an unminted coin for Meiser Sheni. You can't redeem peros Meiser Sheni onto an unminted coin. So this does work. However, to redeem Meiser with the money onto Sel Yafe, that much we're not going to do, because we know, in fact, this coin is not the same, right? Because as we say, normally we give more money than it's actually worth, not less, and therefore, because of that, it's treated as zilzul. Gufa Omer Chizkia Meiser Sheni Shinbo Shiva Pruta Omer Hu V'Chaim Shemachul Al Meiser Yishainis. So as we said, Lafishi Yeshul Adam Samsem Meisav. Since you're not Samsem, so therefore you end up using more money than you have more money than the Peros. So therefore, because of that, if you have a coin, if you have Meiser Sheni, which is less than Shiva Pruta, you can also go on to that money as well. Meisvei. So it's a kula when it comes to Meiser Sheni, as we said. So Meisvei had Truma v'habikurim, when it comes to Truma as well as to Bikurim, chayav lehen misa. So if you have a zar or even a kohen who is tameh who eats this b'mezid, if he eats Truma or Bikurim, so you're chayav misa. And also the din v'chaimish, a zar who eats it b'shogeg, as the pasuk says, v'ish ki yachol kadosh b'shgaga. So there's a chayav of having to pay back chaimish. So if you, a zar, or a kohen tameh for that matter, eats truma or bikurim, so Yischai Misa was b'meiz, and b'shaygig there's a din chaimish, as we continue to nun gimel with aleph, v'asurim was zarim. Obviously, again, they're not allowed to eat it if you're a non-kohen, as Rashi says, b'lo yoichel. You're not allowed to eat it, okay, even though it seems obvious, okay? V'hein nichsei kohen. And this truma and this bikurim has the same value. It's considered to be like the ownership of a kohen. So what? Which means you could take this money, this food, if you will, and you can make kaddish an isha with it. Mash'en Kain says Rashi, b'meiser stam mishnah kremer d'omer meiser mammon gavohu. That meiser sheni is considered to be mammon gavohu. It's Hashem's. The mekadosh b'yol kiddush. So you cannot be Mekadosh woman with Meiser, but you could be Mekadosh woman with Truma or Bikurim. So that's the distinction according to the Shita, as Rashi cites of Rameir. Weiter, v'oilim be'echad. Now, if let's say there is some type of forbidden mixtures, they fall into chulin, so it can become batal provided that you have 100, 1 to 100. Says Taisus. B'sifri dorish mimikad shay mimenu de truma oil be'echad umeya. That's 100, 1 to 100. The arl of a klei karen be'echad masayim. When it comes to mixtures of arl and klei karen, it's 1 to 200. The mitosha kafel isuro kafel aliyasai, because the isur is stronger by arl and klei karen. So therefore, because of that, it's doubled the measurement of 1 to 200. The smachta almahu the midaraisa truma of arl of a klei karen betilim baroi biyavish. The truth is, Taisa says that really should be midaraisa batal barov. You only need is, let's say, a 2-to-1 ratio. That's when it comes to a davar yavish. Of a davar lach, if let's say it's mixed something which is a liquid, basamach kashari surin, then it should be a 1 to 60th ratio. That's din deraisa. So it should be batal barov by yavish and balach ech 1 in 60. However, we have these bigger stringencies when it comes to these things, 1 to 100. When it comes to bikurim and truma. Back in the Gemara, u'te'unin rechitzas yadayim, we require to wash our hands, says Rashi, leperos shadayim tameo shniyos. In order to be able to eat fruits, since our hands are considered to be a shniyos, so a sheni can make a shlishi tameh, or can make it impure, let's say it that way, and or passel it, impurify it. And that's only by truma, because we know other kalim can only be matama oichun mashkin to a sheni level, but a sheni cannot make oichun mashkin tummy unless we're dealing with truma. So therefore, because that, you need to wash your hands, because your hands have this status of tuma midrabanan. Usheni oisa shlishi b'truma. Mashin kin b'meister shein toin rechitzas yadayim leperis. For eating fruits, you don't have to wash your hands if we're dealing with meiser. You don't have to wash your hands, and if you do, you're acting like a little bit of a Baal Gaiva because it's not a necessity. Okay, so you have to do Rechitzas Yadayim for Truma. Weiter. The Erev Shemesh, and if you're Tameh, the Midaraisa, you need Erev Shemesh to be able to eat Truma, like the first Mishnah Shas says that Kohanim have to wait until Seitza Kachavim in order to be able to eat their Truma, which is the time of Kriyas Shema. But Erev Shemesh, Har'elu b'Truma b'Kurim. All these dinim apply to Truma and Bikurim. Ma'ashein ken b'Maiser. Now, when it comes to Maiser, as we established. Now, what does that mean, Ma'ashein ken b'Maiser? Lav, is it not B'chlal the Maiser batal baruba? Probably what it's come to tell you that these things are more strict. However, when it comes to Maiser, it's even batal baroiv. Now, as we saw in Taisus, Midaraisa, all these things are also batal baroiv, but there's no din derabanan of being anything more strict. So Maiser Sheni the din should be it's batal baroiv. Now, V'im Isa the Chizkiah, if it's true what Chizkiah said, what did Chizkiah say? He said that Maiser Sheni, which is not a pruta, so there is an eitzah that you could end up saying that it and its chaimish should go onto original monies, because the money that you already did this with previously for other fruits, certainly there's more money than the fruits, because we always go a little bit extra. You do a little bit more money, so not to cause any problems. You don't know exactly how much fruit costs, so you put a little bit more money out there, so therefore there's a little bit of wiggle room, and therefore if you have Pachas M'Sheva Pruta, you should be able to go right onto these coins. Now, if that's true, that what Chizkiah says is a viable option, this is considered to be a situation when you have forbidden mixtures. The reason why we have any kul whatsoever is because the davar shein lo matirin. There's no other way around it, and therefore for hefsid we have these certain kulas that, if based on certain mixtures, so based on certain ratios, we can be lenient. You can eat it. However, that's only about the davar shein lo matirin. If a davar sheish lo matirin, if there's a way out, then we don't say things are batal. We say by davar sheish lo matirin, if you'll be eleful batal, even a 1 to 1,000 ratio. So if it's true that meiser, there is always this way out. So for the Gemara, I don't understand. How do we understand this? How is it shaykh to say that you can't just simply do this eitzah of just take it and redeem it onto other fruits? So how do we know that we're telling us that when it comes to meiser that there is a din of bittul b'roiv, dilma lo bataklal? Maybe it's come to tell you that these cases, they have some din of bittul, 1 to 100, 1 to 200. Mashin kin b'meiser, not that that we're lenient by meiser, maybe pomfakert, because of chizki, it's a dever sheish matirin, and we're more strict. Well, batal klal. So he said no. Lo matzasar minhach. He can't say that. Why? The gabi truma chormi the truma katani could kule the truma lo katani. We're all mentioning how strict truma is and bikurim in relation to meiser. So therefore, how is it shaykh that when we're talking about this comparison of truma is more strict to meiser, then all of a sudden meiser is more strict when it comes to din of bittul? Sahabah katani v'hein nechse kayin. 1 second, but it does say that it's nechse kayin. So truma, actually, there's a kula that you can be mekadosh a woman with it, but not by meiser because it's mam gavoa. So it's not true that they're all stringencies. So lo stop l'daitach. The sanya behedya, it says explicitly meiser sheni bata beruba. It says beferish that meiser sheni takas bata beroiv. It says it. Ve'eza meiser sheni amru. What are we talking about? But meiser sheni moshever pruta. It says beferish. It's meiser sheni, which is not a shever pruta. V'shenichtas Yerushalayim, and you enter in Yerushalayim. V'yatsan went out. Now v'im isa with a chizkiah. If we actually hold like the din of chizkiah, says Rashi again that you entered into Yerushalayim. First of all, look at the Rashi before. The waste way to kanta ba'achila. So let's say it's tame. The inbo sheva pruta the lambar pediyahu im is the chizkiah. So what is the case? It must be, what's the davar shein lo matirin? Because it's a pachas m'sheva pruta, and therefore there's no din pidyon because it doesn't have din kesef. But if there's a din of chizkiah, that's a davar sheish lo matirin because you could do something about it. So he said, says Rashi, v'niklas Yerushalayim v'yatsa. That once you bring the fruits, the whole heter of taking the fruits and being put onto money is dafka if you're outside of Yerushalayim. Once you're in Yerushalayim, that's it. There, it's too late. So therefore, we're talking a situation where you brought the fruits into Yerushalayim and then you took it out. So even though it's no longer within the walls of Yerushalayim, but since at one point it was, so therefore the din is that there's no longer an opportunity for you to be able to redeem it onto money. Therefore, it's again a davar she'ein lo matirin. V'im isa lechizkiah levad le l'chizkiah. 1 second. Why can't we still do like chizkiah? V'nechale al meiser rishaynis. Why can't we still redeem it with the money that was already used? Why can't we do that? Your answer is Deloy Parak. Says Rashi, Lo pada meiser an hena, that you never did it. You don't have any other meiser sheni money that you could now put this on the pakas m'shever pruta onto it. So that's one pashut answer. You can't do it because you don't have it. So it's tak is a davar she'ein lo matirin. V'nesi meiser d'is le v'nitzrafinhu. So why don't you take meiser which and combine it with the tummy meiser? So why don't you combine it? So Rashi, so the Gemara says deraisa udurabanan lo mitztarfi. You can't do that. Says Rashi, litvois pruta zu b'kedushas meiser shehamoirav min atayra batal b'roiv d'chsev acharam l'hatais. So then midaraisa it's batal. The rabbanan hu de amar hecha d'yeshul matirin lo liftoil. It's a din d'Rabbanan. The midaraisa things are bottles. You saw in Taisus. There's only just bottle b'roiv. However, in the Rabbanan they hold that the davar she'esh matirin it's not bottle. Hilkach. Ein iser meiser b'zeh elo midarabanan. Therefore, the whole iser, because the davar she'esh matirin is not bottle, that's a din d'Rabbanan. Hilkach ein mitzaref im zeh litvois pidyoinai nimsa shava chatzi pruta shehevi lechel b'lo chilul. The problem is that you can't do this because we're talking. One is a chiyuv d'oraisa, and one is a chiyuv is only d'Rabbanan. So therefore, you can't combine them, and therefore again you can't use the din of chizkiah. So v'neisi demai. So how about demai? Says Rashi, take chatzi sheva pruta, the meiser sheni shel demai. So once you take half of a sheva pruta, which is also din d'Rabbanan. Because midaraisa, we say that every person separated meiser, so therefore you could say that the demai, which is a din d'Rabbanan, you can take it together with this din d'Rabbanan of pachas m'shever pruta, which is batal b'roiv, and you can combine them. So dilma asil esui vadai. The problem is that if you do that, it's a chashash that you may end up doing the same thing with that which is vadai meiser. V'nesi shtei prutos. Once you then take two, nechalel aihu meiser bepruto, mechalel meiser on the pruta, umechsa 1.5. Nechalel high with this mixture al hechisera on the extra. So misaber pruto umechsa tafsa shtei prutos. Lo pruta tafsa pruta. One works with one. The chatzi pruta lo tafsa, and the other half won't work. Therefore, again, it falls into the category of a deraisa to Rabbanan, because the other one was not redeemed. It doesn't work at all. But deraisa to Rabbanan lo mistarfi. So v'nesi iser. So once you bring a bigger coin, prutos, because you may end up doing this thing with 2 coins. So he said, what happened? He went into Yerushalayim and went out. V'mai, what's the problem? Just bring it back. The answer is bishenitma. Says Rashi, im taruvaisa v'yachlena b'Yerushalayim. So just bring it into Yerushalayim. So he's saying it became tummy. So v'nifrake. So why can't you just redeem it? So that the din is, and we'll see this next 2 words of Yerushalayim. Now you can't redeem fruit onto money outside of Yerushalayim, but there's an exception. If we're dealing with that which is tamei, then you can. So what does it mean say? So it doesn't mean it's too heavy to bring. It means you can't eat it. You can't eat it either because it's out of the walls of Yerushalayim, or It's because it's Tameh in Yerushalayim. Shenemar v'yisam asos meis panav. So therefore, you should still be able to be pointed. Elo b'lakuach b'kesev meiser sheni. Lakuach b'kesev meiser sheni. Okay, so what happens is you bought it with meiser sheni. It says Rashi, meiser zeh v'lohu atzmo haya meiser. This in itself wasn't meiser. El tzarch itzuda shalachim Yerushalayim b'kesev meiser. Okay, so lakuach b'kesev meiser sheni namli for he should redeem it. Did not lakuach b'kesev meiser sheni shenitma yipada. It doesn't matter. You can still redeem it. So Rancis can be Huda De'emer Yikaver. He actually holds that it has to be buried. It says Rashi, because savar lo alim lo mitvas pidyoino, that you can't redeem it. So Rabbi Yehuda, my yori yatsa. Why does he mention it went out? If you lo yatsa nami, if it didn't go out, still it has to be buried. El oilim atar. We're talking about meiser sheni, it's tar. My yatsa the nafel mechitzos. What happened was that the walls fell down. Says Rashi. My yatsa nami de kaimer de nafel mechitzos. Chaymes Yerushalayim. The walls fell down. V'shuv in meiser nechal sham. You can't eat there. Ad shiyamdu mechitzos diabi'inan lifnei Hashem tochlena. So it's necessary to rebuild those walls, and until you rebuild the walls that fell, you cannot eat this meiser sheni. Upedia nami, says Rashi, lo de kaltuhu mechitzos milifdaiso od mishen nichnas osaychai. So therefore, also you can't redeem it for the same reason. V'yomer Rabba mechitza le'echol deraisa. When it comes to eating, it's a din deraisa. Mechitzos likot derabanan. However, when it comes to the din of the mechitza, it says Rashi, mechitza shenemer b'Torah hu huskra el echel b'teicha. The chiyuv of eating, you have to eat within the walls. The she'amru b'mishnah mechitzos koltos osam meliftos od im yatzid rabbanan he. This whole notion that it's ki'u like you can't redeem it, that's a din rabbanan. Mechigaz rabbanan ki'istuhu mechitzos. That's only when there's walls. That's when we say that once it's in the city, you can't redeem it. Ki'leisel mechitzos, so goes rabbanan. However, if there's no walls, the rabbanan are not geyser. So you should still be able to redeem it, because if the walls aren't, the whole reason why you can't redeem it is because you're inside the walls. But if you're not inside the walls, so you should still be able to redeem it. Says Rashi, Kalitas mechitzos min rabban ba'almihi. It's just a din rabbanan. V'hashta denafel mechitzos. None of the walls fell down. Leisabahi gezerah. There's no gezerah anymore. The chigaz rabbanan heichad istahu. The whole gezerah being pointed is only if you're within the walls that are existing. This guy took it outside. And that's a problem, because he took it outside. You brought it in, then you took it outside. However, avol ki leisnehu, if there's no walls, and you brought it in, then out, will gozer. Hilka nifakei b'amai batli. So again, if you can still redeem it, so how can we say it's batal? And where it says, lo plug rabbanan bein islam mechitzos bein leislam mechitzos. No, we don't make any distinction. If you brought it in and then out, the din is the same. You can only redeem it even if there's no walls. Rabbi Huda bar Yehuda Omer Rav Sheshes Chadakatani. Actually, there's just one case. Meiser sheni shein Moshe Pruta. We're talking about Meiser sheni, which is not a pruta. Shenichnas Yerushalayim, you brought it in. V'yatan, you took it out. So amai v'neheder u'na'ale v'nechle. Why don't you just go and eat it? The nafel mechitzos. So he said that the walls fell. The niffer case to redeem it. So I'm a rabba mechitza lechol deraisa. Mechitza likot derabanan. Mechigaz rabbanan. When we geyser the walls that fell, that you take it out and bring it in, that you can't redeem it, is ki istehula mechitzos. It's only if there's walls. Ki leisa mechitzos lo geyser rabbanan. So again, lo plug rabbanan. The rabbanan will make a distinction whether there's a wall or not a wall. He still can't redeem it once it was taken in, then taken out. So hihachi my area ein bo shever pruta fil yeshbo nami. So understand, what's the difference if you had less than a pruta and then went in and out, they can't redeem it, and therefore, because it's batal, it's a never shen matirin. Even if it's a pruta also, you still can't redeem it. So you're right, loma boy karmer. It's true. It's a loma boy. Loma boy yesh boy. If it's a pruta, the kolton le mechitzos, then certainly we say it's considered to be like absorbed in that area, and therefore once you take it out, you certainly can't redeem it. If it's not a pruta, will kultum machitzas kamashmon. So the chiddush is if it's pachis mesheva pruta, that you would maybe think the din opinion would not apply, and therefore you could still be paid it, and therefore it's a devar sheishel matir, and therefore it should be bottle kamashmon. Okay. Let's see if we have a question over here so far. Question. Let's look at question 11 first. Let's see if I have this here. Ketzad eshel chalo meiser sheni shen bo sheva pruta. How can you machal it? So machalo meiser shkvar nitvasu. You could still put it onto previous monies. Since people, again, as we said, the money is going to be more than the fruit. That difference, we'll go on the extra. Okay. Question 12. Okay, let's hold off. Let's keep going. Let's continue. Tanur the pasuk says, "Im goyel yigal ish memasroi." So it talks about the din of redeeming regarding the din of meiser. So what is this coming to exclude? The fact that it's mimasro, like his meiser, mimasro v'lo kol masro, only his but not all. Right, it's an exclusion. So what's that coming to exclude? Prat lo meiser sheni shen bo shava pruta. If it's not a pruta, therefore it's not considered to be under the category of geula or redemption. We can also call that pidyon, and therefore it cannot be typhus onto a pruta. Okay, therefore again the pidyon is not effective. It's meiser sheni's pachas mishever pruta. Itmar Rabbi yomer ein bo. He says ein bo shever pruta. That's what it means, says Rashi. Avol im yesh bo shever pruta. If in itself is a pruta, then it could be redeemed. Okay, you could do a pidyon. That's what it means. Ein boy. Ravasi Omer ein bechumshoy. What does that mean? In bechumsho sheva pruta, says Rashi, sheninu delabar geulahu anshehebo sheva arba prutos. Has to be 4, because therefore, if it's 4, that means the chaimish, which is an outside fifth. If you have 4, then the chaimish is a 1 pruta. That's 1/5 of the total. So therefore, that's the difference. Rabbi Yochanan ein bo, Rabbi Shimon ben Nachash ein b'chaim. So again, the question is, how much meiser shein do you need? A pruta, or enough that the chaimish is a pruta, which will end up being 4 prutos plus the 1. Meisvi meiser shein shen bo shever pruta. Dayoy shiyamer, who it's enough that you should say who b'chaim shem b'chol al meiser yishainis, that it should go on to this original money. That was the chiddush of Chizkiah. Now, Bishul Mamandiyar ein b'chum shoy, that the chaimish is the problem. Therefore, you need to have actually 4 prutos. Hainu tainu dayo. That's the reason why we use this language of enough. Diafal gab debididei ispe, which means that even though the produce itself is a pruta, kivan de b'chum she leka shaper. However, the problem is that since the chaimish in itself together would not be a pruta, so therefore you cannot redeem it alone. Therefore, you have to add it onto something that was already done previously. It's hard to understand. How do you understand this? Because if in fact all you need is for the thing to be a pruta itself, so therefore pachas mapruta, you can already automatically redeem it. So again, the whole chiddush is to tell you that it's enough to do this, which means it must be, we're talking about that it was a chaimish, has to be the pruta. Because otherwise, if all you need to do is have a pruta, then the language of dayo is a shtickle manda. It says Rashi, my rebusa, what's it coming to add? The Israel chamisni dayo, lisni oimer hu v'chaimsha, etc. So the fact that it adds that extra word kind of throws you off to think that maybe the pruta has to be not just the pruta of the produce, but the chaimish itself, which means you'd end up having to have a total of 4 plus the 1. Okay, we're going to stop there, but let's look at question 12. Ma'ashir hamaiser shehu bar pidyon. So, according to the opinion of you have Rav Ami and Rav Asi. This is question 12. Sheish Meiser Sheva Pruta. Reish Lakish Sheish B'chaim, so Rav Yochanan Reish Lakish maybe. Sheish B'chaim Sheva Pruta, Hainu Arba Prutos B'Meiser, I Chaimish Mulavar, B'chaimish Prutos, I Chaimish Mulagav. Okay. All right. So that's, again, where we're looking at from the inside and the outside. Okay, then that would change a little bit. All right, let's look at TA9. B'mishnah Mavor D'B'Meiser Sheni Batal B'Roiv. We said already that Meiser Sheni is Batal B'Roiv must because it's a davar she'eno matirin. So Madua ein bo matirin alidei pedia. Why can't you do the pidyon? So either because, as we said, it's pachas meshever pruta, or shenichnas Yerushalayim v'nafel mechitzos. Another possibility is that the walls fell down, and therefore you can no longer redeem it. So again, it's either pachas meshever pruta, or it could even be a shavar pruta. However, the problem is that you brought it into Yerushalayim, and then the walls fell down, so you can't redeem it anymore. Okay. TB10. Mahu shir meiser shibar pidyon, which is what we just saw in question 12. Let's see what I wrote for TB10. Let's see. So this is on Nun Gimel. Try again, Nun Gimel Amud Beis. So Shava Pruta, Lekaren, Otzarech, Dalad Prutos, Biglal Shitzarech, Gam HaChaimish, Liyos, L'chol Pachas Shava Pruta. Okay, that's a pretty good answer. Adkan.